Hey guys, what's up? It's Cole. I hope that you're doing well. It is no secret that Final Fantasy XIV is extremely formulaic at this point. The raid series, we already know what it's going to look like. The gear progression, we have a pretty good idea about that. Everything kind of just falls into place and we know what we're going to be getting every patch cycle. So in this video, I want to talk about the formula and my honest thoughts on it. Is it the worst thing to ever happen in gaming? Well, not quite. This might actually surprise some people because some people are still convinced that I think that the game is dying, which the game is very far from dying, guys. But I do have concerns. But the formula is one of the things that I actually think that Final Fantasy XIV has as a massive strong suit. Obviously, Final Fantasy XIV is a paid sub game. Obviously, we have a great free trial, but largely it is a sub-based game, and so this means that with the formula, you know when raid tiers are going to be released. You generally know what to expect from a raid tier being released. You generally understand, hey, an even patch is probably going to have this, an odd number patch is probably going to have this, and then Final Fantasy XIV has done things a little bit more granular, where we have the 5.5 patch, or 5.55 patch I should say, or if we look at the most recent patch 6.51, we got the Criterion Dungeon added into it, which is a slight deviation in the formula, but it is adding into the package now of the non-raid content, because 6.5 is an odd-numbered patch. We know that 6.4 was the last raid tier of it. This is just the way that the formula has been. And so given that it is a sub-based game and it is highly predictable, I actually think that this is a huge perk to people. Housing system aside, because that is a completely different egg to crack open and talk about, but you can pick and choose when you sub to the game and when you unsub to the game, and I think that that's great, because as a purchaser, as a consumer of the product, you have more control over where your money is going. If you say only want to do the Savage raid tier and you have no interest in doing Ultimates or whatever else, you just know, hey, sub for the month of the even-numbered patch, grind it out with your static or grind it out in Party Finder, and then you had what you had, and then you can come back later when the next tier's introduced. I'm always going to be in favor of power to the consumer. I think that that is great. Which kind of to the same tune is most people playing this game are adults. I have long since passed the age of 18, although I guess for my voice, most people know that I'm not that old. But I am still an adult, and so I work a job just like the mass majority of players of this game. And so having a predictive cycle allows us to know, hey, when this content drops, I want to book my holidays for this time period. And unfortunately, us all being adults, we need to kind of schedule in things, such as how many people are going to be booking off a few days of PTO when Dawn Trail releases. And so everyone's looking, hey, when is the exact date of Dawn Trail? Because I need to throw that at my manager so that my manager will hopefully give me that delicious PTO, because none of us could really afford sick days in this economy, can we? See, I want to say yes, but my want to continue to grow my down payment says no. Now, if we also look at it from the flip side of the development standpoint, the developers have a content cadence that they also can predict, that they know, especially for the project management side of things, that hey, we want to develop this particular raid, which is going to require that particular graphical asset, voice acting for this and that. Just think about the new raid, and especially for the first boss, which I'm not going to give too many spoilers here just because some people might not want that. That was a lot of nice graphics. What a beautiful area. Great music was introduced with that raid, new mechanics. Whether you think they're easy or not, we still saw a whole variety of things added, and that requires development time. And so from the development standpoint, that's also really good. And obviously take that example and stretch it over all the different types of different content that we get, such as variant Criterion Dungeons. We already know from the Dawn Trail presentation that variant Criterion is going to go with us into the future in Dawn Trail, and we're going to see more of that, which I think is great. Likewise, a new raid tier, you know that there's going to be new raid weapons released with that, new different item levels, as well as the item levels are kind of predictable, which is in and of itself kind of good for devs and players, because you kind of know what's going to happen. Not that the gearing system doesn't have its flaws, guys. I want to rant so much about the loot lockout, but I'm not going to rant about the loot lockout still being here almost 6 months after the raid tier. That'll be a different video. Now let's talk about the dark side of the formula. And this is not really to do with the formula. This has almost nothing to do with the formula, because let's be real. My issue with the game, and I stand 100% behind what I said, is the game dying? Absolutely not. Anyone saying it's dying is kind of clown tomfoolery, but I do think that we are going into the next few months, and it is going to be very painful, especially for casual players. My issue with the formula as it currently stands is not the fact that it's formulaic. My issue with it stands with the fact that Endwalker's formula really doesn't have much grippy casual content. Like, that is what I think people really need to understand here. We got 2 amazing ultimate raids, which y'all have convinced me in my last video's comment section. Maybe I will actually genuinely try DSR. I'm kind of like freaking out of my mind because I'm like, oh my god, really? But after collecting all the T weapons, people are like trying to like get me to just try it. We'll see. I have no faith in it happening, but I'll try. But that's not casual content. Criterion Savage, I think, is great content. I think that the rewards for Criterion Savage are really good. Those weapons are super freaking cool. I think that they're awesome. Like the glow on the white mage weapon and the black mage staff, I think it's amazing. Are you really gonna tell me that casual players will do Criterion Savage? You can't be telling me that. You can't. I don't believe you. Now, on the flip side, there are tons of things that we've always had as a part of Final Fantasy XIV as a staple to keep a lot of like casual, more social players that are like really ingrained in like the ERP atmosphere. Like we have housing system. But we've always had the housing system. We have had like nightclubs, which is a part of the housing system, just a subset of it. That's always been a thing. I think that Island Sanctuary was a brilliant addition because it allows more options for players to use their outdoor furnishing items that with the current housing system in the game being so incredibly tight, especially on like Gilgamesh, which is where I'm from, like houses are still very, very coveted items, very, very hard to get. Having Island Sanctuary as a way to express themselves with outdoor furnishing items, I think that is still a great thing. Island Sanctuary, however, is deeply flawed when you look at it from like the content longevity perspective, because is a lot of it spreadsheeting? Guys, a lot of it really is entering a spreadsheet. Even now with the Felicia's Favors, I kind of thought that it would be a bit more than it is, but it's literally just it's just more spreadsheet. So getting to the real meat and potatoes, it's not that it's formulaic that it's bad, because say you added a zone like Boja in, which is very like casual, approachable, like more mid-core content, like Delubrium Regane was freaking amazing. That was like much more bitey than like an expert dungeon, but it was approachable enough that you didn't really need to like study up on it and like brush up and stuff. Like obviously, like if you studied up it'd be good. You went in with the lost actions, like I love that stuff so much, but it was more approachable content. And really what we're seeing with this current formula isn't that the formula is bad, the idea of the formula, but that the inputs into that formula are skewed probably, honestly, both a little too hardcore and both a little too casually. Because from the casual aspect, Island Sanctuary is just bloop, put in spreadsheet. From the casual perspective, okay, I ran all my variant things like in a day or two, and now I have the mount. Okay, now that's over because I'm not going to touch Criterion Savage ever. Criterion normal rewards are also kind of, but the Savage rewards are lit. But the Savage is too hard for casual players. Alliance Raid, beautiful, stunning, but we don't really have Type 2B leggings or something like that to like incentivize people to get it. The glamour's nice, but again, Type 2B leggings, y'all know what's up. And so what we're really facing now, like the issue is that casual players that want to do like combative activities, that don't want to do like ERP in a club, which definitely would have been the category I fell into many years ago, like there is not really much for them to do, not much for them to grind into. There is no real relic. There is no open exploration zone. Like those can be separate too. I'd also say that Eureka Orthos, by hardcore players that have done tons of deep dungeon, it's too easy to them. But to the average normal casual player, it's kind of impenetrable. And I think that there's also the skewed mentality of what a casual player is versus isn't. It's kind of like the word mid-core is almost as meaningless as saying middle class, where who can define, especially in this day, what a middle class is? It's the same idea. It's so ambiguous and such wide range that it's almost meaningless. But kind of to put a wrap on this video, because I think those other topics can be explored elsewhere, The formula really isn't the issue, but it is the inputs into the formula. And for the record, I stand by everything that I said at the start. I think that having a formulaic design is to the advantage of the consumer, to the advantage of the player. I definitely 100% back that up. Also to the advantage of the developer. But I think that the inputs are very skewed in Endwalker, where we got the ultra hardcore stuff, which is fantastic, which is really exciting stuff. I do think it's genuinely great, but it's way too hard for me to imagine a casual player approaching. It's just not realistic. You cannot seriously tell me that a casual player who's like just like doing things, like who considers like P9S hard, will ever really seriously consider doing Criterion Savage. I don't know many people that would. And like, I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of people. But yeah, with that being said, take care everyone, and I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope that you're taking care. See ya.